Oh, he ready to rock today.
He ready to rock today. Let's go.
Cowboys traded for George Pickens. This is going to be fun. The show starts now.
Oh my god!
What happened?
Hey, yo!
All right.
That 5-hour energy is hitting you so quick.
Hey, you remember that Prince song? Let's go crazy. Let's get wild. You don't know about that, do you?
Yeah, no,
Let's
for
go
sure.
crazy.
Cowboys traded for George Pickens. We've been looking for wide receiver 2. How about wide receiver 1B? Or maybe he is wide receiver 2. But we'll work our way through everything having to do with the George Pickens trade to the Dallas Cowboys on today's DLLS Cowboys podcast. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Jay. I'm next to former Cowboys wide receiver Jesse Holly.
Oh, Jesse Holly went 77 yards. It must be a reality show.
Seated next to Jesse is a guy that Retrospectro says, I'm curious to see how Pop going to turn this into a fight today. As the greatest beat writer of the history of the Cowboys, Mr. Clarkson.
Can't stop. Can't stop. Can't stop.
Hey, man, it's not about fighting, okay? It's not about fighting.
You don't have to respond to.
But I did say get some damn players, damn culture, okay? I said that on Monday when y'all thought it was crazy.
Next to Clarence is a man in the running for the greatest beat writer in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Joe Hoyt.
Tell him something, Joe.
George Pickens, huh?
Yeah.
We do a show every day, and I just want to say, part of me I don't care how it goes because it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be extremely fun.
If you're unfamiliar with George Pickens' fine work, that man could catch anything, anywhere, and could get a 15-yard penalty at any time.
Where is he on the Jameis graph of like fun versus like wild versus
He's
like
better
talented?
He's
versus-
better than Jameis.
Okay. He's definitely.
Why are you fighting?
I'm not.
Oh, hell.
Jameis is fun PG. He's death row, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
He's
No,
death row. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was in the vicinity.
Jameis is Will Smith, and parents don't understand, and you know he death row. That's death row. It's gangster rap here, baby.
Yeah, Jameis is very much football wild ass in a
Fun loving.
in a really friendly way.
Yeah.
George Pickens is a little different. It's a lot different. We're going to have to change up the locker situation. They're going to say, look, Micah, you're going to have to learn that leadership stuff a little faster. We're going to move you down a few. George, you're going to sit next to Dad. Okay? We got to put him with Dad.
CeeDee's going back there too.
Immediate thoughts when you realized that George Pickens was a Cowboy, Jesse? Because I know it's at least two of them. Yay and uh-oh.
You know what? I'm gonna take a different approach.
Oh.
I'm going to do what we all should do.
Pray.
We should all pray. That is definitely should be key.
Wake up at 6 a.m.? 5 a.m.?
Let's give Jerry Jones some flowers.
I don't like this.
Let's give we
I don't like this.
I like to be fair.
So this one here down.
I want to be fair.
This is here double down.
We kicked the Joneses in the nards
Say you.
a lot.
You talk for yourself.
Well, okay. Jeff kicks the Joneses. I was trying to bring you.
You're gonna join
I was
me.
trying to support you
Yeah,
in this,
yeah,
but
you're
since
right.
you want to make it individualistic,
Yeah, you're right.
Jeff
Yep.
kicks Jerry in the nards a lot.
Yeah.
Specifically on this show.
Yeah.
And to some degree,
Yeah.
he may deserve it.
Yeah, I call it harsh but fair.
But other times, like moments like this, is when you can say, you know what? There is still a little spirit living inside old Jerry. There's still something in him that said, I'll take a chance every once in a blue. Now, we've always, got on him about you get the guy a year, 2 or 3 too late. Yeah. He what he once was, what they once were. They're not quite that anymore. I think this one, and I also want to say, I don't believe that George Pickens will be as big of a head case as we make it out to be. But to Jerry and Steven's credit, you went and answered a really, really, really big need for your football team. And with this singular move, you have put your team in a far better situation than it was in 24 to 48 hours ago.
I think all that is well said. Outside of anything that could have possibly been negative about me, I think everything else was really well said. Yes.
Yeah.
So, first thoughts.
I'll echo it. I applaud this move. I think that one thing in terms of business, life, anything, you gotta be willing to take risks, right? But you gotta be doing it thoughtfully. You gotta be doing it with purpose, conscientiously, and I think that's exactly what this is. I think the Cowboys have realized when you go down their list of needs this offseason, they said, hey, we got to fill all these, right? So how are we going to do that? We're going to fill these, backup offense line. We're going to do with guys, right? And I think one thing they really identified is we need a wide receiver too, a big-bodied guy who can make contested catches across from CeeDee Lamb that will allow him to work the middle and make plays over there. George Pickens, in my opinion, it was their plan B to not getting Tetairoa McMillan. I think Tetairoa McMillan, in terms of contested catch ability, was the perfect complement to CeeDee Lamb. Once that board didn't fall his way, and one thing that we told them is, hey, stick to your board, take the best player available. They did that. They didn't reach for a receiver in the first round, the second round, third round. They didn't do it at all in the draft. So when the draft unfolded the way it did, I think that they had a contingency in mind. Hey, we've talked with the Steelers about George Pickens. The Steelers have talked to a lot of people. I think once the things went their way, the Cowboys said, hey, if we're going to get George Pickens, we got to be aggressive here. And that's why, to be honest with you, I didn't expect this deal to happen like it did, because the Cowboys had to go over the top. The Steelers wanted a day 2 pick. They got one because the Cowboys actually, in this case, were selectively aggressive. They decided to be aggressive with George Pickens. I think that this is exciting. There's obviously a lot of risks to it, including the idea that you reported today. He's going to play this contract out. And I think that that's a risk because you start looking at how many guys are going to play their contracts out with the Cowboys. You got one franchise tag, remind you. So if Deron Bland balls out, you got to pay him. Well, pay him. George Pickens balls out and you want to keep him around, might have to franchise tag him. You start looking at the scene. Things could get interesting after this year. But this year, things are going to get fun.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, you're up.
I got a lot of things to say.
Damn.
I got a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
And I like to piggyback on some of his stuff.
Okay.
Number one, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm mad as hell. I am mad as hell. I go into last year my deal, okay? With my job on the line, you say you all in, and I get nothing. I get Zeke.
Yeah.
After the draft. You do nothing in free agency before. I get Zeke. Then I get a bunch of bums in training camp.
Yep.
But my job is on the line.
Yep.
We like our guys. You let me go. You bring in this novice coach here who's my understudy, who doesn't know offense, who I taught him everything you know on offense. Look at all the trades. And so we go with the free agency, and during the time we say, well, they didn't really do much. But then you add Pickens to what they did.
And they did a lot more than they did a year ago in free agency.
100%.
Look what they did. All the trades, Elam, and then you add in Murray, and now you add in Pickens, and wow. This, you did some stuff.
A running back that can run fast too.
Yeah, you did some stuff. I'm still mad at Derrick Henry. Go get Nick Chubb. I'm still mad at Derrick. I'm not letting that go because you should have done that last year, and he wanted to be here, and he would have taken less money according to his agent. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and you talk about the Pickens. Yes, he's going to take less money. I mean, he's not going to take less money. He's not forcing you to sign him to a contract. He wanted a new contract in Pittsburgh. He's not forcing his agent. David Mulligata told me.
Which is a hilarious part of this. His agent
told me
is Micah Parsons' agent, who Jerry says he doesn't know.
We're going to prove it. This is a proof year. Don't need a new deal. Okay? So I would say this. When you say that they could franchise him, he's the wrong guy to try to franchise.
I agree.
Okay, because you think he might not act the fool this year,
But it's in there.
but you put the franchise tag on him, then we got a problem.
I agree with you.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. You franchise Bland. Don't franchise him if you want to keep him if he has a big year.
He will absolutely act the fool.
Yes, he will act the fool.
He will
So
act the fool this
he's
year.
not
too.
the
I
guy you
promise.
want to franchise.
Bland would be, you could probably be okay.
Yeah,
with
but
Bland.
he's the wrong guy you want to franchise. Secondly, talking to Mulugeta, does Jared know your name now?
Nope.
No movement on Micah Parsons. You know, it's the same age. Even though they've talked about this deal, no movement on Micah Parsons. So that's still out there. But just the biggest thing I was saying, one thing I got in trouble for on Monday when we argued about culture and team captains and all the other stuff, the Cowboys have always had good culture. I know even if Tank and Micah did, okay, even if Tank and Micah.
We'll have a whole segment about this, right?
No, but I mean, see now, when I do that, I'm arguing, right? Mm-hmm. He does it, it's okay. I'm just saying. When I do it, I'm being argumentative.
It's a track record thing.
You know, I'm just saying. I'm not arguing anybody's point. But I'm just saying that theoretically, and what they've said, brotherhood, they've talked so much about brotherhood around here. The players have talked about the brotherhood. Going back to Jason Garrett, he talked about getting the right kind of guy and team captain. That was a platitude that's been there. I know that everybody wants good culture, and everybody wants, if you have good culture, then you can add a few knuckleheads. That's the case across the league. And I'm just saying that when we were going so crazy about the culture of the picks and the captains of the picks and even the undrafted free agents, you're not going to win until you get difference-making players. That's going to take you over the top.
Yeah.
Because captains and culture and you can't play don't mean a hill of beans, okay? And they need to add players like with Micah, and everybody goes crazy about Micah in this podcast. I would have 11 Micahs, okay? Give me 11 all-pro players, okay? Give me 11 all-pro players.
I do need one team dad, though.
Okay, that's what you got there with that. But give me 11 all-pro players. Give me more difference. You don't have any Pro Bowlers outside of Micah in the front seven. Give me help from Micah more than team captains. You need players. And Pickens, with all his troubles and all this off-the-field stuff, mercurial stuff, they say he's a good locker room guy, according to people in Pittsburgh. Yes, he does some crazy thing on the field, but he's not really crazy in the locker room. Okay. He is a guy that has made plays, and he does fit with CeeDee because it's funny because they have the same body type, 6'3", 205. They have a different style game.
Very different.
You know, and they have a different, so it's a good fit. When CeeDee does things in the slot, he's really a true outside type guy that go up the field, and he doesn't catch the ball over the middle that much. He didn't at Pittsburgh because they didn't run those routes. I think he can be a guy that can make plays over the middle.
That way?
Yes.
And he goes that way.
And Pittsburgh, he has the body to catch the ball over the middle. I think with Dak, with the Cowboys, he may be able to do some things over the middle.
The stuff you talked about with culture, I want to shout out our friend Vach Lombardi, who sent, I think, the best tweet about this.
It was good.
To you.
You don't build a leadership culture to keep divas out. You build leadership so they can lead the divas.
I agree. That's a great platitude. It's a great platitude and a great point.
All team captains, so we can handle that.
But my point is, my point is, do you have great culture now?
I don't know.
Oh, that's my point. So
tell me if they win their first 3 games.
So if you're building it, because you're saying you don't have it, if you're building it, then it's a rocky ship. It's not built on a foundation so I can bring this guy in. Now, if I know I have it, that's a whole different conversation. But don't tell me you're building, you're trying to create something that's not there yet, and then you bring a knucklehead in and then they can handle it because you don't know what you got. That's all I'm saying.
It's a fascinating case study this year.
Yeah, you don't know what you got. So that's a great platitude, and that's a great point.
Team culture is not – I don't think team culture is a yes or no. I think team culture is 100% based on your best player's reaction to adversity or when things are going well. Like, did the Cowboys have good culture? If they start the season 3-0, they'll have incredible culture. If they start 0-3 and your culture is defined by Micah Parsons dealing with adversity, I think you might have crap culture.
But see, why we got to point out Micah Parsons?
Because he's the guy who I think of. I think he's their best player.
I know.
And I think he's a big-time leader. Right. And I do think he's one of those guys that if things aren't going great, his body language will be poor. He will be on a podcast talking about people. And I think that is a potential thing.
Right.
But that's not your culture until you get there. Your culture's incredible if they're winning because I think that he is a person that is very likable, that people like. And if things are going great and he's kicking ass, everybody's going to be super happy. And we'll say the Cowboys have great culture. So win a bunch of games. They'll have great culture.
Exactly.
George Pickens can help you win some games.
Exactly.
I think. We'll get into some of your super trades and all the different angles on George Pickens, the newest Dallas Cowboy baby, including the compensation. What did happen with that whole team captain and leaders And how exactly does this fit with CeeDee and with Dak? That is next on the DLLS Cowboys podcast.
You know, we love all our sponsors.
We do.
Really good people.
Mm-hmm.
Really solid, salt of the earth people.
Good folks.
But if there was ever a sponsor that was made for DLLS Cowboys, it's this one.
Yeah.
It's Mando.
Funky.
And you're probably asking yourself, what's Mando? Mando is the men deodorant that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Now, sometimes we go throughout the day, you know, your balls get a little day on it. Wow. Just, you can say it. It's in the read.
In the copy points.
The balls in the copy point?
Yeah,
the copy
it's in the copy points.
Your balls get a little day on it, and you just think like, man, I can't move around like this.
No, you got to
If you
freshen up.
get yourself some Mondo,
Yeah.
you spray that thing down there, it keeps you fresh up to keeps the odor off about 72 hours. Now, that don't mean you ain't supposed to wash, but go ahead on over to Mondo, use our promo code DLLS, and get yourself $5 off a starter pack at Mondo.com.
Shout out to our friends at HelloFresh as well, where you can get a ball of some sort of food.
Yeah.
A ball of food. HelloFresh is great. And I need to re-up on my HelloFresh order because last night I made my own hamburger helper. It took a long time, and I can tell you, it's not as good as you remember. If you were eating it when you were a poor kid, it's not as good as you remember. So get good food from HelloFresh, and they make it easy to get quick home-cooked meals into your schedule every week. They curate delicious recipes like pasta primavera, chicken Dijon, pecan-crusted trout, as well as over 100 seasonal snacks, sides, and treats. Every HelloFresh meal uses high-quality ingredients, including seasonal fresh produce and proteins that travel from the farm to your doorstep. So get squared away. Stop with all the grocery shopping. It's a hassle. Feel great with meals that fit your schedule and make the season even more delicious. HelloFresh.com/Cowboys10FM to get 10 free meals with a free item for life. It's the DLLS Cowboys podcast. The Cowboys traded for George Pickens. The compensation for trading for George Pickens is the Cowboys gave up a third-round pick in the upcoming draft. They also gave up a fifth-round pick 2 years out.
2027.
And they're getting a sixth-round pick in 2 years out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
in
a
2027.
pick swap.
And potentially, if he walks away in free agency, to get a third back, possibly?
It depends.
Well, he
It
has to get a-
depends on how he plays
Possibly.
and who he
I
is.
said
All
possibly.
subjective.
Yeah.
Yes,
Possibly.
so because he'll be your free agent, that's the thing is, and maybe we could take it here in this segment. What is going to happen with George Pickens? I think anybody who's super definitive about it is guessing their nuts off.
100%.
What could happen with George Pickens is he could fit in great, he could play great, and the Cowboys could reward him with a gigantic contract extension. Could happen. He could play well, be a half a headache, but they could have gotten deals done with Micah and Bland and whoever, and they decide we want to see it again, and they could franchise tag him. He could be around for 2 years. He could play it out. He could play great, and the Cowboys could go, we can't afford him, and he could go somewhere else. And depending on how much money he gets, you could get back a third-round pick or a fourth or a fifth, whatever. It depends on how much money he gets when he becomes a free agent. So how George Pickens plays out, no idea.
He could also be terrible, to be honest, and then they don't get any comp pick because there's not a big market for him. And it
Plays his way out of the league.
100%. Like, that's your point. There's a lot of things that can happen. And I'm going to go on a quick little side rant because I saw Mo comment about this. Like, why don't our beat writers know what's happening behind the scenes? I want to give you a little window into the soul of beat reporting for a second. We've been reporting that they want to get a wide receiver, right? The reason that George Pickens, to be honest with you, didn't make sense because as beat reporters, one thing we do is people talk to us, but they're not going to tell us everything sometimes, right? So you have to connect dots. George Pickens to the Cowboys never really was a dot connected because when you look at what the Steelers were trying to do, they were trying to gauge the market. That meant they were talking to a lot of people, right? Cowboys don't pick up the phone. They answer the phone. So they answered the phone. George Pickens was a guy, if you listen to everything Brian Schottenheimer says, doesn't really add up with the culture that they were trying to build, right? So there's another check against George Pickens possibly coming here. And in order for him to potentially come here, one thing that was kind of a prevailing thought is he wanted to get paid. The Cowboys, I don't think we're going to just blindly pay him because they're not even paying their own guys right now until the very last second. So why would they pay a newcomer? Long story short, the dots never made sense. So in terms of what we're reporting on a daily show as things develop, yes, we said that they wanted to add another wide receiver. Yes, we reported that George Pickens was someone they talked to. He never necessarily made sense until it actually made sense for them because the need was too much and they had to go over the top to get him. And they had to say, you know what? You're going to play this deal out? That's awesome. So long story short, window behind the soul. we're tweeting what's going on, connecting dots, and that's what happened.
Window behind the soul. We don't give a damn, Mo.
I like that.
We put our ledger up against anybody's, okay? We don't give a damn, okay?
Come get some.
We don't give a damn.
Come get some.
Remind me, I was first on Brian Schottenheimer, too. Remind you.
We can list the scoops we've had here first. We don't give a damn, okay? We're going to add to the story. We've added to the story that Bobby Belt didn't have, that they don't want a contract, okay? We're going to add to the story. We talked to the agent, okay? We're going to add to the story. We don't give a damn, okay? We're going to give you the information that we have. It's all good. Good for Bobby. He had it.
Yeah, Bobby had it.
You know,
shout out to Bobby.
You know, it's okay.
So Bobby woke up earlier than you guys today and saw when it was done.
No, he tweeted remnants last night.
Okay.
It's okay. That's fine. That's part of that. But we add to the story. It's all good. But we're not gonna go into a pissing match with Bobby Belt over who had it first.
Slick
okay?
Rick scooped you all.
But,
honestly, Slick Rick was on it.
All
Slick
Bobby
Rick
did was report what Slick Rick said.
So it's okay. And the bottom line is this. And I know I get in trouble with statements and being too aggressive. I like to be aggressive. You know, in my conversation, I'm aggressive.
You're
anyway.
an aggressive man.
I'm aggressive in my conversation. I would say this to say we don't know how it's going to work. I know he's going to be better than what they have. I know he's going to be better. He's been better with what they had with bums at quarterback. I had to do it because I'm going to do it.
I support this one.
Because
I agree.
He had bums. This dude had bums at quarterback. I remember Keyshawn talking about, look what I did with bums at quarterback. I can't throw it and catch it too. He had bums. And the production he's had in Pittsburgh, even though he was a wild card with his antics, he produced with bums at quarterback. Going back to Georgia, he's had bums. He's never had a great thrower. Okay?
George Pickens is a stud.
I mean, now he finally gets a decent quarterback. He's excited
He's
to play with Dak. He's motivated to get a new deal. Okay? Yeah. So he will be better than Tolbert and Mingo and what the domestic Cowboys played with last year at number 2 receiver. With all due respect, I love you, Brandon Cooks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, they'll be better at wide receiver than they were a year.
That's all I'm saying. So we don't know how it's going to go, but
who was the one receiver that Dak Prescott, one starting receiver that Dak Prescott kind of struggled with playing with him?
Dez. He was never great with Dez.
Why?
I think Dez was already on the downside, honestly.
He was on the downside. Back show of the world.
Because I get where you're going, but I also think that George Pickens is a better in every way Michael Gallup, and Dak balled out with Michael Gallup.
Good point.
If I have one knock on George Pickens, he's not a polished route runner. And even in his years in the league, he's not a guy who is going to rely a crap ton on just my sheer will and ability to go get the football.
Yeah.
And just to make a play. But a lot of what he does in the realm of getting open, like when you watch George Pickens play, a lot of times he's not open. Now, when you have that level of range that he has, Chad Johnson called it 7-Eleven. I'm always open. I'm always open. But he's not a guy who's going to create the separation. He's not a guy who's going to route you up. He's not a guy who's going to run the route tree for you at a high rate. Now, you got CeeDee Lamb for that. That's fine. That's great. That's all good and well. I'm just saying that the one thing that was a struggle for Dak, the one receiver that he had that was a struggle for them to truly connect at a high clip was the receiver who was very similar in the sense of sideline, jump balls, that type of situation. Now, I'm not trying to call this thing anything other than just an observation.
And I'm not arguing with you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying
arguing.
But
come and get him.
With all due respect.
With all due respect, I love you, and I love your perspective.
Come and get him.
Dak was a young quarterback. He's a different quarterback than he was early in his career. Dez was the downside of his career. Pickens right now is more athletic and makes better plays at this point in his career than the Dez that Dak was playing with.
Fair.
So there's two different things right there. So it's just a different time, different motivation, different guy. And I know Dak likes the big body. He's never really had that big body receiver catcher. And Gallup did it some, but this is a guy that can, big body on the slant. When I go back to the Green Bay game when Brandon Cooks got beat up by Alexander on that first pick.
Yeah.
That everybody had changed the game.
Yeah.
A big body guy, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Too many tip balls turning interceptions because they don't catch the ball in contact. This is a guy that catches the ball in contact. You need that type of guy. We talk about like I said, in these routes in this offense. Well, he's not going to get that, but this guy catches the ball over people. He needs to go with a healthy Ferguson and CeeDee in the route running. He wants this type of guy. He needs this type of receiver at 24.
Yeah.
Who's still athletic.
Yeah.
This fits.
I don't think there's a better fit
who you could get
on planet Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you say I'm just going to give you like the best player, like here, have Jamar Chase. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's all going to come down to how good is your football team? How do you guys respond to adversity, et cetera, et cetera? Because the things about George Pickens of why he's on your football team, we can do just the optimism stuff and talk about how excited we are to have the good football player. Yeah. But to pretend that the Steelers are just a bunch of idiots and like, man, they just traded away a guy who's 24 years old and averages 1,000 yards a year with bad quarterbacks. Like, what a bunch of dummies. They were willing to part with that for a reason. And that stuff, who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But as far as the player and how he fits with what the Cowboys do, I guess you could also say a perfect fit would have been like a Jameson Williams type, like just a burner.
Just burner, yeah.
But the idea of, look, CeeDee Lamb is a problem, and you're going to have to deal with this problem, and we like to let this problem move around all the time. We're just going to put that dude out there.
Right.
And if you think that you can pay attention to our problem, you're about to have a new problem.
100%.
And that problem is the return of the PTB2.
I 100%.
How's that, Bo? There you go. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Break it, CD. Had that safety sitting there. And Daxton look over there and go, okay. All right, I guess I'm going to catch this ball. I'm going to pat it 2 times. I'm going to throw that bitch as far as I can. And we're going to see what happens. I think George Pickens, and by the numbers support this also, like the number of contested catches he had as a rookie.
Highest ever by rookies.
Most ever, I think,
in
by a player.
Yeah,
right.
In an NFL season.
Yeah.
Which that does mean that you ain't really getting open. But it also means if it's me and you, it's me.
Yeah.
And he will do that. And if you're going to get a bunch of man coverage, and he, like last year, had no other good receiver on his team and no good quarterback play and got hurt and still almost had 1,000 yards, George Pickens is a great fit to me. The question is, will the volcano explode? How you going to do when people are late and maybe don't show up to some stuff? How are we going to deal with that stuff? And do you want to pay him? And how does all that play out?
Motivated by money. You cannot ignore the fact that he wants to get paid here or somewhere else.
Yeah, but
most guys are
who you are.
I understand that, but we always talk about guys on contract years.
Yeah.
And then when they get their money, they fall off. Okay, because we've seen that many times.
Depends which part of it you're talking about.
Yeah, but we see many times guys get paid and they go back to who they are. There is a motivation factor that if he wants to change his life and get his career on track, this is an opportunity to do it. He's going to finally get the quarterback. You know, they talked about it. We want to prove who we are. So that's been in his head. His agent talked about it. He want to prove who we are. So he's going to try. He may not have tried in Pittsburgh last year. He's going to try to be his best so he can get paid. It's in his best interest to get paid. It's in his best interest to be his best.
Also, Pickens has like conscientious aspirations of what he wants to be. If you haven't read the Kevin Clark feature on Pickens yet on the Ringer from last year, it's fantastic. But one thing that he kept telling Kevin Clark was that he wants to emulate AJ Green. He compares himself to Mr. Fantastic and a noodle. He considers his game ambidextrous. If the ball is out there, he'll go get it. So to your point, Jeff, like that's exactly, I think, the type of guy they were looking for. And to Jesse's point, I think like just saying, hey, okay, you're going to slide that in. Perfect. Like, I think there's going to be some adjustments, and it's going to take maybe a little bit of time for Dak to kind of be like, okay, what is the best way to handle just a PTB2 to you? Like, how do we make this kind of fix in our offense?
Tell you what, if you start bitching on the field, I'll be like, okay, bet. But I'll throw it to you.
But the good news, and we got to be, I'm not negative, and I'm not carrying the water. And the good news is, if there's some good news with all of that, he's here today. He's here to get acclimated.
Well, he's here tomorrow.
Well, you know what I'm saying. He's here this week. You know what I'm saying.
I know, I'm teasing.
He's showing up immediately to get acclimated, to get on page with Dak. We're not waiting till training camp like the stuff to try to get some chemistry with the receivers. He's going to be here for the rest of the OTAs and mini camp and to get it acclimated, to get him involved so we can create some chemistry. He's going to go on a little receiver trip with Dak this summer, and so we can get some of that. So that's positive for a guy that has an attitude. He's trying to get in and get here and get involved, to get acclimated early.
Mike Tomlin was like, get him the hell out of here.
Well, we can talk more about that.
Because Aaron Rodgers was only throwing to DK. He was not throwing to him. You know,
and Alan Lazard when he comes into Pittsburgh, too.
Oh, you got to get Alan's. Oh, is Aaron Rodgers about to tear down another franchise real quick?
Yeah,
Hell yeah, good for him. Just go ahead and flex on everybody. Burn down one more historic franchise. Coming up next, we're going to shock you. We're going to continue to talk about every angle on the George Pickens to the Cowboys topic tree on the DLLS Cowboys podcast.
EmpireToday.com. The promo code DLLS. The benefit, you, us, we, the family, together, can save up to $350 off new flooring. It's the springtime. Mother's Day is this Sunday. Father's Day is the next month. And maybe you're a good son or a good daughter. And you want to say, you know what, Mom, I know that you've been looking at that wood. Well, not wood. The good wood. The wood on the floor, not that wood. Mom, maybe you want to upgrade this carpet. You've had the same carpet since 74, and you want to upgrade the carpet. You're making a little money now. Get your mama some carpet. Or Dad, it's time for us to upgrade the man cave. Let's get some good laminate in there. Whatever it may be, head on over to EmpireToday.com. Use the promo code, save $350 off, and be a great kid to your parent this spring and get them some new flooring today.
Yeah, save yourself some more money with our friends over there at Ownwell. If you are a home owner, if you own some property, you need to know about our friends at Ownwell. That's OWNWELL. I am a homeowner in the state of Texas, and Ownwell are the experts at making sure that you're not paying too much for property tax. Overpaying on property tax should not be one of the challenges that you have as a homeowner, so let the people who are the best in the business at this take care of you. Ownwell believes that when it comes to paying property tax, you should only pay what's fair. You sign up in under 3 minutes. Their team of local experts and cutting-edge technology can start saving you money with no upfront costs. I filled it out about a week ago, and they are on the case. I also didn't know the answer to some of the questions on there, and they got me some of the answers to that back. They were like, how are you with your homestead exemption? I was like, oh, no. And then they hit me back next day. They're like, you're good on that. You have that. I'm like, oh, sweet, thanks. And now they're seeing if we can save some money on that property tax, and there is no upfront payment to them. They only get paid if they save you monies. Ownwell.com/DLLS. All right, George Pickens is a Dallas Cowboy, and I got to tell you, 97% of me loves it. Because even if it's not all perfect, boy, we're going to get to talk about it.
Yes.
And I like to talk about stuff. I love talking about stuff.
Play the hits.
Now, why were you able to get him? How likely is it that you're going to get the best version? We'll do some of those things, but I do want to knock out some super chats because I know I'm getting myself behind on them, and you don't want to do that. Randy's in the super chat. Happy Pickens Day to all who celebrate.
That should have been a good
Sound like
tease for us.
Cinco de Mayo.
That could have been a good thumbnail.
Having a good thumbnail.
Armand, Cowboys fans are drinking the whole Kool-Aid pitcher and are high on hopium after this trade. Yeah.
True.
Elliot, love the big swing, but don't love wide receiver twos that could be mentally taken out of big games. Prove me wrong, Pickens.
Sure.
Yeah, but just to have things go great.
Yeah.
The lunatic, give me the Kool-Aid, but this is what front office is supposed to do. Michael, the delusional Cowboy fan. I feel my Cowboys fandom coming back slightly. Oxnard's going to be lit. Boy, the first time that Micah and George Pickens get in a scuffle.
Oh, my gosh.
Ozzy, senior discount at Club Great Grand Pop. Also love the trade, but if Pickens plays great but doesn't re-sign, what's the potential comp pick we could get? If he makes all the money, third rounder. Michael Cordero, Pickens versus Lattimore 2 times a year will be theater. I'll tell you this. The Cowboys added a better wide receiver than the Commanders did this offseason.
I agree.
Facts.
I agree with that.
And the Commanders added Debo. Dan Myers, these aren't the moves of a team who's apathetically treading water. The front office clearly believes they can compete. Get that hopium in my veins. Lammy. Cowboys now have a better duo than the Eagles. Let's go. I love the trade.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far.
Potentially.
It's potential.
Potentially. A.J. Brown's not better than CeeDee. You could pick a flavor. He ain't better.
No, I agree.
Is Pickens as good as Devontae Smith? Maybe not as consistent. We'll see.
Not yet.
We'll see.
I personally wouldn't go that far, but it's a debate.
Hater.
I'm with you, Joe.
Y'all some haters.
I personally wouldn't go that far.
Knights in the super chat. Wide receiver has always been exempt from the RKG.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Good point.
We got
That
the
is
right
a-
kind of guy that does not apply to receivers or corners, I don't think. The guys who got to go way over there, away from everybody else and mess with each other, they can be whatever they want. They ain't in here with us.
That's fair.
They're over there. Don't worry about it. If we could just harness Pickens' attitude to put DBs through water coolers in the run game, and he will. Vance is in the super chat. My main question, where does Pickens land on the wide receiver diva scale from Fitzgerald to T.O.? And does Schott differ from JG due to more pliable scheme? And this is the rule. When you get a new head coach, you pretend that he's amazing at everything, even though you know nothing. Yeah, his scheme way more pliable than Garrett. Definitely an upgrade from McCarthy. We have no clue.
Right. And he insists that he's changed too. So we don't. We have no idea.
So who knows?
That's what I'm saying. We have no idea what his scheme's.
And they also say I'm not changing who I am.
But he's not going to change who he is. But he's changed and he's pliable and it's an upgrade from McCarthy, but better than Garrett.
He's very
and Landry could have learned a thing or two.
He's a cooler version of Garrett.
Much cooler.
Cooler version of Garrett.
It's the offensive Dan Quinn who hasn't gone stale yet.
Whoa. Cooler version than
say whatever you want. Okay, so here's my thing about attitude, guys. Because money's a great motivator. I think you have to separate off the field guys or diva or whatever you want to call it. I think you have to separate into two different things. Can you have hope that because a guy is in a new situation and he's trying to get paid, that part of it, because here's what happened in Pittsburgh. George Pickens had some des to him. Clock, struggle. Things start at this time. Well, when I get there. Not necessarily on time to things, that sort of thing. I think with the right motivation, and money can be a hell of a motivator, that can be fixed.
Was he not motivated by money in those other times?
Well, no, now we're getting closer to the next contract. Yeah. It's time to do it right. It's time to be on time. Okay, so you'll be even more skeptical than me. I think that part you could talk me into. Sure, you can get to stuff. You can be on time and be reliable on non-game day because you want to be on best behavior, because that's something that you have time to process and think about.
Yeah.
On the field, 15-yard penalties, quit on routes, get frustrated. Those are other things from Pittsburgh. Those things, I think unless you told me that he has seen a sports psychologist weekly for 6 months, there's zero chance that changes, because I'll relate it to somebody that DFW people are very familiar with, Luka Doncic. Luka does not mean to be a crybaby B to refs all the time. He does not mean to not get back on defense and complain all the time. That's his emotional reaction in a moment when he's not good at processing things. George Pickens, when Jordan Lewis talks crap to him and he reaches out and throws him down by his face mask, that was not, well, my next contract, that was, he did what to me?
Yeah.
Like, that is, how do you regulate your emotions? And the answer for Draymond Green, Luka Doncic, Terrell Owens, Des Bryant, George Pickens, is not well.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't go great and he quits on a route, it's not because he was like, I need to be really thinking. You're not responding, you're reacting. Becoming a person who responds instead of reacting is something that takes real life work with professionals to change the way that your brain operates. So the idea that he will be the perfect on the field, won't get penalties after the whistle, won't quit on a route, I think the odds of all that stuff going away are zero.
Yeah.
Zero. But he's a hell of a football player. It never went away with Dez. Never went away with T.O. to be a reactionary firework, and they can be okay. But the idea that everything's going to be perfect, I just tell you, I think the odds of that are zero.
I'm team media always, right?
Yeah.
Did you see Jordan Lewis's tweet?
Yes.
We missed out on some training camp drama, okay?
God,
missed out on some training. You remember when Dez went after the cornerbacks, and it was Jordan Lewis, one of the people Dez went out his rookie year.
Yeah.
Okay? We missed out on some good stuff at training camp.
Yeah, they got into it after a game, and then
what are you talking about?
Jordan Lewis.
That was after. Oh, talking
No,
about
Pickens, after the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grabbed his helmet, he called in, and then Jordan Lewis called him weak.
Yeah, and on the way to the locker room, he said Pittsburgh needs a receiver. George Pickens weak.
Yeah, so Jordan Lewis tweets this morning. I'm so God wanted me in Jacksonville, but we missed out on some training camp drama. That'd have been fun. That'd have been some good drama in training camp. So
he said, I don't need to be here.
One thing I'll say about Pickens, though, and to your kind of point about, hey, it's kind of more on the field aggressiveness. He's quirky. He's interesting. Players who have had kind of, on the field, off the field, receivers specifically, discomforts in Pittsburgh that have then left Mike Tomlin's kind of safe haven have not worked out super well. And that's one of the risks too. And I don't know if it's even fair, frankly, and maybe this is unfair by me to just associate, specifically George Pickens with Antonio Brown, with Chase Claypool, with Martavis Bryant, with Deontay Johnson, because they're all different human beings, right? But I will say that Mike Tomlin has proven that I'm willing to take some of these guys and I can kind of control them for a little bit, frankly. I can limit the damage here. And then when I get tired, I let them go and it doesn't really work out
anywhere else.
Anywhere else. So that is one risk, I think.
Some of that comes down to it's like your child, right? Like you this is my kid, so I love them. I handle them with kid gloves a little bit more, and then when that kid goes out, now that can be a problem. That can create a problem because if you're not properly addressing that childlike behavior, what ends up happening is they think it's the norm. We use an example here in DFW when we talk about Dez. I can tell you for sure, because I was there, and a part of it is that if you handled him a certain way, and then he thought that was the way it was supposed to go.
Right.
You were handling him to get through the day, not to change his life.
Right. It was like how literally I had a coach tell me, I don't care if you're late, Jesse, bring him with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not his daddy.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, did I take care of you? I'm like, yeah, then take care of me.
Yeah.
So
Give me an extension.
What Jason say?
53 yeah. But so what ends up happening is that again, you treat that with a kid glove, they begin to think that is the norm. And when you leave that place and people go, oh, that's what your mom do for you. That's what your daddy do for you.
Mm-hmm.
That don't work here.
Yeah.
That don't play here. So hopefully for George, that now leaving the womb and the covering of Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin being handled with those kid gloves and being able to kind of work through those days.
Hope Jalen Tolbert got room in the car for two.
Yeah, they might have to. Bring it home. That he comes here with the much level, because most guys when they get to this level, George Pickens is 24, 5 years old.
He's still a baby, yeah.
Yes and no. He's still a baby, but in the sense he's a grown damn man.
And he's been in 3 years.
And so what's going to happen is,
I agree.
this is who I am. In the sense of, is there room for change? Sure. But me showing up late, me not really wanting to all be in all the time, that's a large part of the DNA.
Right. You done?
Yeah. Go ahead. You got to get it out. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that two things. Just because there were a lot of head cases in Pittsburgh, they're all different.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown is a whole nother case.
No,
They
they're different cases, but Pittsburgh and Dallas both did what they do today.
I understand.
Pittsburgh had another mercurial wide receiver that they drafted, had for a while, had some success with, and then when we're done, and Dallas found another guy that they loved 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I don't think it was about love 3 years ago. I think it's about
and he's been great.
I think we need a guy that's productive. But because we like to put everything in the same box, and I don't think this is a case that we like this guy to draft with. So I don't think that's the Pickens situation here, like some of the other guys. But there's a difference between, because I was looking on Mercurial. I was writing this morning. I said, how did I get this right? I don't want to call him troubled. You know,
that's why you go with
troubled?
Mercurial.
I use Mercurial.
That's a good one.
Antonio Brown was not Mercurial.
Sure he was.
No.
Before Vontaze Burfict scrambled him.
He had probably, he was beating women out the field. He had, I mean, just
in Pittsburgh, though?
It doesn't matter. He was not Mercurial. Yes, that was part of it. Okay?
He was always Mercurial. Vontaze Burfict sent him into a different dimension.
No. I'm just saying.
He's a CTE man.
He got, how it manifested was different. Okay, and you talk about being late. We don't know about this guy being late.
I do.
Okay, not like Dez, who all of that stuff. Okay, and that's fine. But there are different categories of mercurial, I guess, if you want to use that word. And so let's find out. But just because those guys didn't work and doesn't mean he's definitely not Antonio. I mean, he's not Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown is still wild.
Yeah, people didn't think Antonio Brown was Antonio Brown
until he left
until he turned Antonio Brown.
Yeah, well, he was always Mike McCarthy.
He was always weird, but he got real bad places after Vontaze Burfict broke his head.
He was a fool.
It is a trend though.
And I would say this, like you brought up the Draymond Green and stuff. Well, we put up with Draymond Green. Why?
Because he's good.
He's good. They win titles.
Exactly. Not just because he's good.
And they win titles.
Because we We look at the pro, right now they talk about Draymond Green and how they let some things go because he won. He's part of a winner.
Yeah, he'll punch a guy, yeah.
But he's part of a winner. And he's key to a championship team. If Pickens is key to a championship team, then we have a different conversation. Those other guys you named have not been key to championship teams.
Yeah, you need the Vernon Maxwells. You need you need the Charles Oakleys. You need the Anthony Masons of the world. You need the Dale Davises of the world. Those guys are necessary to
He's got some bite.
But you got to make sure that you
got to have some guys with edge too.
You have to have the culture to support it.
I agree.
The Bulls had a culture for Dennis Rodman.
I agree.
And for Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Mike was
crazy.
We're pretending Mike was the adult in the room?
Yeah.
Mike was the adult in the room.
That's the crazy thing about it. They was all fools.
Look, every team needs incredibly talented, whole-ass lunatic somewhere in the room.
Yes.
Coming up, I only have 17 more talking points on the George Pickens trade to the Dallas Cowboys, so stay tuned for however many we get to. Next on the DLLS Cowboys podcast. Also want to encourage you to be a diehard, baby. Sign up. Oh, who told me today? Somebody told me today. Was it a Twitter DM? I like to shout out the folks who tell me that they've become a diehard. I believe it's a guy named Jack.
CTE.
I believe it was Jack. I mean, I've had concussions. I may have some CTE.
I've had 5.
And the government's not paying for that stuff no more, right?
I don't understand what you're saying. Government wasn't helping me before either. Okay.
No more concussion research.
Oh. I mean, I think I know what happens. Your brain moved around and stuff. It doesn't work as good no more.
Trauma's hard to replace.
Sign up to be a diehard. If you love your DFW sports team, this is your one-stop shop for everything that you could possibly want. Plus, when you sign up to be a diehard, you're supporting your favorite content creators. That's us. And you get a free t-shirt as soon as you sign up. So you get an ad-free experience on our website. You get access to our diehard-only level content. You are supporting journalism at its best in your market when you sign up to be a diehard at alldlls.com/diehard or using the QR code that is on your screen right there. If you're watching this on the YouTube, you get access to our Discord where we like to hang out. We like to hang and bane. And we talk about stuff. It's a throwback to my last radio job. We had a guy who couldn't say words that had NG.
Oh.
So like if he was trying to say hang, he would say
Okay,
hang.
I was worried about where you were going.
No,
with that
so if
NG.
you want to say you were banging away to a song, he'd say baning. Yeah, so if you were just hanging out and listening to music, we'd refer to it as hang and bane because he couldn't say. He said on the air when we discovered this, he said, my NGs don't come the best.
see. Y'all can get away with that on that radio station.
I don't understand what you mean. Get away with what?
Your NGs. Man, come on.
No, the sound that sign up to be a diehard at alldlls.com. It's the DLLS Cowboys podcast. Thank you for being with us as we head into the final segment of the broadcast day. And I won't lie to you, there's still 30 different things to talk about with George Pickens to the Cowboys. So do we want to go to, if somebody has something they're hotter on than this, we can. I was going to say, do we want to go to what it means for the wide receiver room, or is there somewhere else you want to take it?
I want to go right there. I want to go right there.
Take it.
Okay.
53 of them, somebody got to go. Because, and I'll use a personal example, and it'll involve Dez again. We were told heading into that draft that we weren't going receiver. We were fine on offense. We were going all defense, going to get the defense ready.
So funny.
Right? And we get a call. Well, no, I didn't get a call. I'm watching the draft in Mexico.
Oh, you crap.
1, 2, 3, Cancun.
And I was already there. I had parked myself there. And it's in Spanish, but I can hear the Dallas Cowboys.
Ocho.
Vaqueros.
And I was like, excuse me? I started to sweat.
You're like, damn, he's good as hell.
You started to sweat.
Yes.
And it wasn't the heat?
And it wasn't that the senorita, no, play. It wasn't the heat. Because I start looking at the numbers. I start saying, first round pick, that jumps to the top.
Okay, he's up there.
Guy that they traded for him paid $49 million to.
Okay,
he ain't going anywhere.
The other guy who they were about to pay.
No, he's probably up there.
Yeah. And I was like,
okay, I got what, 2 spots left? Maybe 3?
I was like,
probably 2.
So the things got pushed down. Now I survived a little bit longer, but it's coming to a point now that room, You did a story the other day on
Trayshawn Holden.
Trayshawn Holden.
Oh, his uphill climb got a lot
boy.
more steep.
It went from a little bit of a trek
He's fighting to be on the practice squad.
to now
100%,
it's Mount Everest.
It was
100%.
already. I'm arguing. It was already Mount Everest. It was already there.
Even
Mount
to like
Everest.
retro saying Seth Williams the first one out according to like Seth Williams
not
was
a-
never in.
Right.
Yeah.
And-
The
and-
question is which guy that was in.
Right. And can I say this? With all due respect, love you.
Oh, here we go.
You were sweating already before Dez.
No, I wasn't.
Well, in your mind, I'm just saying.
At least wide receiver 5.
I was good. I was good.
But if we're having a conversation, you got to fight for your life every year. Is what I'm saying.
No, when Dez came, I was.
But you was.
I was.
But
I
your
was, I was
mentality.
in a good
He
place.
knew he was making $600,000 that year.
Yeah,
But
I
my
was
point
good-
is
I was in a good
what your
place.
mentality is. You still got to fight. You're not.
No,
you're
no.
not safe. Is
No,
all
no.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you weren't.
I went from being, I can't wait to training camp start too.
Right.
I might not make it to March.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like to June or July.
But the reason you made it and made a couple more years is because you had that fight for your life attitude. That's all I'm saying.
But
he got a lot more nervous.
The fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
I started saying to myself, "Hey, this Mexico trip, we might not be going to. I know that steakhouse.
We might need
had
to get home.
Yeah, like I know that we
Yeah,
said we were
I
going
got
to
it.
this nice fancy
Right.
restaurant, but
Right. But you
we
got
might
that.
eat one of them street,
Right.
one of them street hot dogs.
And
you know what I'm saying out here in Mexico.
And all I'm saying is
You know what I mean?
the great the gift and the curse is that when you are not drafted, you have to fight anyway. There's nothing guaranteed. So these guys on this roster, and we can talk about the guys at the bottom of the roster, nothing was guaranteed for them anyway.
I don't think it's the
But they
guys
get
at the
more
bottom
nervous.
of the roster. I think it's anybody not outside of Pickens, of course.
Yeah.
Anybody to me not named
Okay.
Turpin, if you want to call him a wide receiver,
Yeah.
and Lamb.
Right. So
Everybody else,
You wouldn't throw Jalen Tolbert there.
no.
No, see, don't,
No.
Like in terms of like
the
potentially
only,
being cut.
the only reason
Yes.
the only reason I throw Tolbert, I say Tolbert is more of a shot because he covers. You got to have wide receivers that go down and do some of the things on special teams. And
He's a great special teams guy.
He's a good special
And he
teams
seems
player.
like he's friends
but I'm
with
just
Dak.
saying. But the reason Tolbert's on that list, if he's on that list, because he ain't done nothing.
For
If
sure.
you're unproven and you're not lived up to expectations, if you're a low round pick, yes, you need to sweat. But you need to sweat anyway, because this was always, they've been talking since the end of the season, since before the draft, that we have to upgrade the number 2 receiver. There was always,
100%.
and that was going to happen in training camp. If it didn't happen now, they was always on the hunt to improve and add to this room. So anybody who is not proven or who has no investment in, you need to sweat.
But there's a difference between improving that room and bringing in, another guy, and improving that room and bringing in a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought in a
there's
dude.
a difference.
But the goal was to bring in a dude, whether it was Ted in the draft. The goal, because they were talking about we need somebody at number 2. They didn't say bring in a guy to add to the room. They didn't say bring in a
Right.
bottom. They didn't say bring in a Ryan Florida, which is why they didn't go receiver in later rounds. They were always trying to bring in a dude.
I think if you didn't get a guy in the first round at receiver, you already had enough of the other guys on
Right,
your
which
roster.
is why the goal was
Right.
always bring a dude, whether it was going to be, we talked about Amari or somebody. They were always going to bring a vet or somebody that was proven.
But to Jesse's point, I think as more time goes on and you don't get that guy in the draft, if I was a wide receiver, I'd be like, oh man, maybe they're not. Maybe actually, I've
When-
seen what
when-
they've done
when
with
you-
history. Maybe
when
they're
you-
not
That
going to
means
get
when
somebody.
training
went
camp,
through-
they're going to trade for somebody.
Ryan
When
Florida
somebody
was
get cut.
good.
No, I
Yes.
think that's
I
when
think
you
change
went to the
changed.
draft and you did not get a receiver, like in the money rounds, there were a bunch of guys who exhaled. There were a bunch
sure.
of guys who said they called their financial advisor and was like, you know what? I might get that chain. That car. You know what? This feels like I should go get that now because there isn't anyone right now that's challenging my job. Today, they woke up in a different place.
Right. And
Jalen Brooks and Ryan Florida are definitely looking at you like,
Well,
hey
they-
man, one of
then-
us is gone.
Right, and so they lied to themselves, which I get. I mean, they lied to themselves. I'm sorry. Listen. I don't want to. I seen it. They lied to
It's a
themselves.
number. No, it's a numbers game.
but they
though.
lied to themselves.
It's a numbers game, though.
Jalen-
You added
if
one more
Jalen
guy.
if Jalen Brooks, who fell on the route, which we got, when Tom Brady said, "I ain't never throwing to him again."
I know, and
Okay,
then Dak threw it back to him right
listen,
away.
That's because Dak's Dak. But the bottom
I
line
know.
is, it's just a production. The NFL is a dirty, nasty game.
For sure.
And if you don't produce, your ass is on the line.
It's also a
And I'm
numbers
saying-
game.
Yes, and if you don't produce, we're always trying to improve, recruit over you. Every year we're trying to recruit over you. That is a fact of the game. They're lying to themselves if they go in there and think, I'm good. No, you're not good. And if you don't have that fight for my life mentality, especially when you're at the bottom of the roster, especially if you're a 7th-round pick, you're not going to make it.
There's a difference, though, between having that mentality and looking at the numbers and saying, you know what, with my mentality and my ability, my confidence in myself, I think I have a chance. Now, with another guy in there, oh, shoot, there's one less spot. The odds are more against me.
Listen, you still got a chance. There's
I know,
32 teams, okay? You got to play your ass off 32 teams.
No,
Florida,
cut everybody. Just kick them all.
no, I'm just saying there's 32
Cut them
teams.
all.
No, you're
I'm not
targeting.
cutting
You're
them all. I'm
targeting.
saying there's
Good luck.
32
You're
teams.
targeting the wrong
brothers?
part of the argument. You're targeting the wrong part of the argument. We're saying, yes, you still have to. Jesse's fight never changed by the fact that
I know
they
it
brought
did.
someone
That's
in.
my point. I
No,
know
but
it
he looked at
did.
the
The
numbers
math
and he's
changed.
like, oh, now I'm sweating a
I
little bit.
know, and I'm just saying there's a mentality from the inside. As a player, he has his own. He has
And
his own
especially,
perspective.
I was already cut from a team
Yeah.
with the Bengals
Yeah.
for the very same reason.
And I'm just telling you, but I'm telling you, as journalists, now we're on the outside looking and talking. Okay, we're talking
For sure.
about how it looks. And our perspective, my perspective is he should have been fighting. And he has his own perspective of how he did it and how he faced it. And that's his. And I'm saying, but now we're on this side, and it's our job to look at the receiving core and talk about who's in trouble.
And they're looking too. That's our overall point, is they look at it as
And
well.
I'm saying,
There's no argument here.
no,
No, I know. He's
and I'm-
going on the wrong. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that if the Floridas of the world don't have hair, they playing with the hair on fire already, to say I was thinking I was good beforehand, you had the wrong. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying you had the wrong mentality because they all are in question. They were in question before the trade.
You want to hear the? You want to get a little messy with it?
Get
Yeah.
messy.
I don't know why y'all scared to get a little messy with it.
I'm not.
I'm proud of the Cowboys making this deal because unlike, and I get it because 1st-round pick, he's only had 1 year. I'm not quitting on your 1st-round pick from 2 years ago.
You carry an agenda, and I love it.
I am proud of the Cowboys for not doing.
How did this become a Tyler Guyton conversation?
I am proud of the Cowboys for not doing what they do. I was getting ready for the talk up of Jonathan Mingo. Like we traded for Jonathan Mingo,
Right.
and he's really going to step up. I was waiting for that. And now Jonathan Mingo's name should be with the rest of them.
It is.
Jonathan Mingo should not exist above Ryan Flournoy and Jalen Brooks. You traded for him, sure. Jonathan Mingo ain't done nothing in this league.
Right.
No.
Like Jonathan Mingo, if he gets outplayed in camp by Ryan Flournoy,
Yeah.
it's not impossible he's gone.
And they didn't pick up a 5th-year option, all of that. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but that was my only case with the Brock Hoffman, the feeling good. And Brock Hoffman saying all
There's
the
your
right things.
agenda.
I was saying,
Saying
the
all the
agenda
right-
carrying between.
saying- that was my case well back in when everybody was saying all the good things about Brock Hoffman. Dude, ain't nothing guaranteed for you. Ain't nothing guaranteed for you. And he played more than these receivers. Ain't nothing guaranteed for you, regardless of whether they got somebody or not. They tried to replace him in free agency. They did it in the draft. Nothing's guaranteed for those guys.
Let's hit the super chats. Make sure we get them all in before we get up out of here. Claymore's in the super chat. We can't criticize Cowboys for being idle and for making a move. We can't sign a Nobel Peace Prize nominee.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, but I also think you can't do the show the day after they add a guy that is a really good player
And not
that
talk-
Mike Tomlin wanted off of his football team. Like you can't pretend that part's not there.
No.
Right.
And
No.
that won't be a factor in
Our
the football
conversation
season.
was
That's a good
97%.
perspective.
Thank you.
Our conversation was 97% positive.
I
about it.
told you, I love
Better,
it.
it's better
Yeah.
than the
I
Voss,
love it too.
better than the Voss perspective. That's a good perspective.
Even if it goes real poorly and it turns out that he hates everyone and they hate him and everybody pile drives each other, but we're going to have some good shows.
oh yeah.
I'm excited. Pickens, and he's a baller. King Charles is in the chat. Do you think Tolbert or Ferguson will
Ferguson.
benefit more from George Pickens? Yeah, Ferguson.
Ferguson.
'cause,
It's not about Tolbert anymore.
Tolbert going to
sir.
see less snaps. Ferguson's going to be just fine. The one who's going to benefit the most is George Pickens from George Pickens because he's going to benefit from CeeDee Lamb,
100%.
the lunatic.
I like this one.
DC wide receiver coach Junior Adams going to earn his money.
I like this
He's
one.
going to have to.
Yeah, that's tough.
He's dealt
Is
with
it?
He's dealt with some
It
personalities.
could be tough.
This isn't a wide receiver coach situation.
You don't think that any impact?
That's why I was like, it's
I like-
above that, right? Like George
is-
Pickens
this is-
has
this
to be
is
dealt
like-
with
but
above
in
this
that.
is-
terms
this
of
is a-
delegating how to control? No? Okay.
This is a Brian Schottenheimer.
Oh.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now. You know what George Pickens gonna say? George Pickens gonna say to Joey Adams?
What you gonna do?
Shut the.
You damn college coach.
What you gonna do to me?
college
What-
coach?
What you gonna do to me?
This ain't Joe College. He
This
gonna
ain't-
call him Joe
Jesse is
College.
saying in theory that is not a prediction of words that George Pickens
No,
will say
I'm
to
just
his new
saying.
coach.
I've been in enough room with enough wide receivers.
That's fair.
The wide receiver coach don't control.
You
He's
run our
arguing-
drills
he's
until we get to
arguing with your
team.
point.
You
It
don't.
happens.
no, I'm giving a personal, professional experience.
I can't argue with that because I played high school football.
Argue with him.
Argue with him. I'm not arguing with that point.
Come on.
We got to get out of here.
Argue with that point.
Thanks for stopping by. George Pickens is a Cowboy. Remember, thank you.
Thank you guys.
It's because we did a great show. It's definitely not because the Cowboys made a big trade. Thank you for stopping by. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through. So be cool, everybody. We love you. Be easy.
Eliminate the contingencies.
We all silly like the mayor.